Okay. All righty. So we're looking at bodhisattva vows. Last week we had a general introduction to the different levels of vows. And so this week I thought it'd be actually good to go through or start going through the engaging vows. So when we take these actual commitments, vows, so we have the two aspects when we take bodhisattva vows. One is the aspiring or wishing, and and then having maybe developed more confidence in our capacity to actually take the engaging vows, which is a bit of a misnomer because it's actually only one vow. Which is just as we said in the refuge and bodhicitta prayer, to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. However, these things called downfalls, root downfalls and secondary downfalls, and it's always like that. And when we talk about vows, that it's actually a thing of restraint, of what not to do, what we want to turn away from. So we can, as last week we discussed a little bit, that having a vow, taking vows is like, it's like a subtle, non-physical substance or imprint on our mental continuum, if we like. So some invisible form, some imprint on our mental continuum. And that's sort of the idea of that, is to shape our behavior. So all these downfalls say, well, if you don't do this and you don't do that and you don't do that, then we can think, do the opposites. So in this booklet we have at the beginning, more or less at the beginning. So it has the beginning pages on wishing bodhicitta, and then it talks about how to guard our vows from degenerating in this life. So those who have taken refuge, when we take refuge vows, those vows are for this life, one lifetime, so for the rest of this lifetime only. However, it still has that subtle imprint on your mental continuum. So in some future human rebirth, when you have the opportunity to take refuge again, and they hold for that particular life. A bodhisattva vows hold lifetime to lifetime. So having said that, when we take bodhisattva vows in this life, that's when we're, renewing that pledge of the vows. So say I've taken bodhisattva vows many lifetimes previously. Of course, I don't even remember most of this life, let alone past lives. I wouldn't have a clue, right? Except here we are. So let's assume we have properly together, previous times, maybe even together, some of us in this lifetime, maybe even many times. So when we take those for the first time in this life, that establishes the fact of we then, if we transgress those vows, we create downfalls. That's what we're going through. So say I've taken them in previous lives, and up until I take the bodhisattva vows for this first time, I've transgressed those, but that doesn't count. That's not confusing. So even though they last lifetime to lifetime on our mental continuum, it needs that taking of the vows in this life to activate that imprint. The imprint's there. Maybe your good behavior is already there and you're tending in that direction. Usually that's when we then take vows. Okay, just to clarify a bit. So when we talk about downfall, it's acting as a restraint to certain actions. So this, in terms of the teachings of the Buddha, comes in two forms. One is what's called a natural transgression, or which is, say, killing, especially killing another human being. And the other, which will, you get caught, you go to prison. So that's, a natural one that is said to be accepted throughout society. Nothing to do in particular with the Buddha. But then the Buddha also gave, you know, some ethical restraints to us, which go further. So we could even say with the killing one, not killing any living being. You know, you're not going to go to prison for killing an ant or a cockroach, but it will be, well, actually, in terms of the Pratamoksha vows, if we have the complete karmic conditions for that, then we suffer the result of that, is the whole point. Okay. Or, for example, in terms of monastic vows, just one example, the Buddha, you know, what do you call it, forbade the monastics from chopping down trees. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One, we see the environmental impact, and the Buddha spoke a lot about the environment and caring for the environment and so forth. And on the other hand, is also that those trees are habitats for many beings. So you're at least disrupting their habitat, and you might be even inadvertently killing them. So there's a whole bunch of reasons that go behind each and every one. And so it's good for us to know what we're committing to and to have some understanding, because we recite maybe, you know, and once we take these vows, we recite them at least in, you know, say the 18 at least root bodhisattva vows at least once a day. And but then we have to unpack, and that's what we're going to start doing in terms of, well, what does that actually mean? Okay, so before starting to unpack those, so here it's got, you know, how to guard our vows. So we contemplate again and again the advantages of bodhicitta, of developing this mind, this courageous mind of a bodhisattva, of becoming a bodhisattva. So there's a number of points for us to reflect on there, which comes, you know, when we have the teachings on bodhicitta. Even to generate bodhicitta, there is that contemplation of the benefits. So I won't be going through those. Worthwhile going through, but just in the interest of time. And then I will though point out this one. So to protect for future lives. Oh, hold on. Am I jumping? It could be. Yeah, I'll go back actually. So there's the practice to do to strengthen our bodhicitta. And one of it is to, you know, obviously having a mind of regret for any harm that we've done. And we recite this prayer on page 6 or something similar, like there's slightly different versions. This is before you take the engaging vows already, if you take just the aspiring vows. So recently, I was at Chenrezig Institute and somebody requested bodhisattva vows, and Geshe Sultan was giving the refuge vows on the final day and added the aspiring bodhisattva vows. And that was to lay that foundation for the engaging vows for those who were new. In any case, having the aspiring vows, we still recite a verse like this 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night. O Buddhas, Bodhisattvas and Gurus, please listen to what I now say from the depths of my heart. Just as all the Buddhas of the past have developed the thought of enlightenment, true bodhicitta, then practice its stages of greater development, following the trainings for all Buddhist children, which is children means bodhisattvas. Buddhist children are bodhisattvas. So may I too, for the sake of all beings, develop bodhicitta and follow the trainings exactly as all bodhisattvas have done. So that's 3 times mornings, 3 times night. If we take aspiring or wishing, it's called the same. That's the same thing. And then not giving up bodhicitta because of, certain sentient beings who you think, oh, well, I'm not going to work for your enlightenment, everyone but you, thank you very much. And here it says, particular sentient being who has harmed you. But I think in this world today, we look at particularly the human variety of sentient beings and the harm they're doing in the world. And we find it very difficult to hold them with compassion in our heart. So we just acknowledge that fake it till we make it, just include them there. I always like to think it's those ones in particular, because if that mind of caring concern for others arises in their mind, they stop doing the harm. You know, it's only the beings who already have that sort of toxic, particularly anger, hatred, you know, revenge, that toxic, most powerful toxic mind, who are cause harm, right? So we can, you know, we can wish for them to be free of that, and that way we can include them. How to maintain and enhance your practice in future lives. Abandon these 4 negative karma dharmas. It says knowingly confuse one's abbot, so that applies to sangha, the person who ordains us and so forth. Guru, which is our spiritual teachers, or other holy beings, with lies, such as changing the subject when your guru asks you something to do something. I mean, frankly, wouldn't you run at the chance? A friend of mine was given advice or instructions by Lama Zopa Rinpoche and said, oh, Rinpoche, I won't finish that in this lifetime. So Rinpoche gave more. So I'm just saying, be careful. Because the idea, well, it was a certain practice. So the idea is that we get that, we train our mind, we shape our behavior by reciting those to, you know, shape our mind, have it on our mind stream, and that puts the imprints for future lives. Okay. Or not telling your guru, your spiritual teacher, of your negative actions because you're afraid of him, her, they scolding you. I always say, what's the point? They know what they know our minds anyway. They know our behavior anyway. Yes.
I haven't said the verse 3 times.
Have you done the refuge and bodhicitta prayer 3 times in the morning, 3 times? No. Well, Geshe Sultram some years ago at Chenrezig Institute said that covers it, because you've got the bodhicitta there. We've got refuge and bodhicitta. So you can recite this as well, and that's our usual verse for that. However, I'm just saying, Geshe Sultram said, because the refuge in a Mahayana refuge includes the bodhicitta, you know, automatically. You haven't broken. You can ask as many questions as you like. A few.
One minor about, especially what's it says, you're not supposed to sleep during the day.
Ah.
Now I very much like my naps.
Yes, I think you're not alone. Somewhere is like our nana naps. Yes. So this was asked also of Geshe Sultram, who clarified it, so I'm not making it up, that when you set your bodhicitta motivation in the morning, even you go to sleep, you're sleeping with bodhicitta. So Geshe was saying, you know, because he gets up very early in the morning, does his prayers and maybe has his breakfast, and says, sometimes I have a little nap then. But with bodhicitta, so, you know, as long as, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, there's, it's just like the thing about not stretching the legs. And when I first read that, I thought, I love stretching my legs. But it means being lazy. It means nodding about mindlessly. So that's why we need clarification. So you can just think, I'm sleeping with bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings. I'm looking after myself so I can look after others. Well, you can work on your lazy mind. We all need to work on our lazy minds. Okay. And that shows a point. You know, sometimes we read all of these and go, oh, I can't possibly do all that. Well, no, I like to think about it like when thinking of enrolling in a course, and you think, but I don't know all that stuff. A friend of mine did that and he didn't enroll. It's just like, no, this whole point of doing it, it's so that you learn. So what it is shaping our behavior. I want my behavior to be like this. And so then the more we practice that, the better at that we get. So we are all, bodhisattvas, with L plates on. It's just like one more baby step forward each day. I'm not trying to do too much all at once. You get long. Okay, discouraging others from practice virtuous actions, and that comes up a few times throughout particularly the 18 root downfalls, or causing them to regret virtue they have created, such as saying, it's good, but it will be difficult for you to maintain that practice. So you're discouraging them from doing particular practices when they really want to do that practice. You have no idea. I mean, if they were coming to advice because you were their spiritual teacher, you might consider all the pros and cons. But to say, oh, it'll be difficult for you, say, the example here, when someone's practicing renunciation, practicing giving up attachment to this life, right? We all need to practice that. And as Lama Zopa says, watch your attachment, watch the attachment mind where it goes towards. So all of that's practice. So we never discourage anyone from that. Rejoice, So you're causing them to doubt their virtuous practice because you're saying you're not good enough or you can't do it. Yes.
Dharma buddies to each other. We need to be careful about this as well.
Yes, we do. All of us. Yeah, Dharma buddies. I mean, don't have to be a teacher, but as Dharma friends, we are all each other's Dharma friends. Then we need to be careful that we actually encourage. I mean, this is what the Buddha taught, to encourage people in the Dharma, not to discourage. Okay. So even they do not regret their virtuous action, your encouragement to do so is a negative dharma. So we do have to be very careful. Abusing a bodhisattva out of anger. Of course, we have no idea who's a bodhisattva, including all the little creatures running around as well. Even they are at fault. And here's the point. If your abusive words are heard by others, you create the negative karma. So you create the negative karma because it turns others away thinking, say somebody comes here to the Dharma Center and they hear this and they think, oh, I'm not going to come back there. They're all abusive or it's not a very quiet place, peaceful place, etc., etc. So we don't want to then, or others get scared because, oh, if they did that to them, what are they going to do to me? So we cause, fear and doubt in others' minds. And of course, they always say, if by raising anger to a bodhisattva, it's the easiest way of destroying all the virtue or the merit of all the virtue we've accumulated since beginning this time. We're very careful. Anger's the toxic one. Yes. Absolutely. They can be a Buddha. They can be a bodhisattva. We have no idea. Because, Buddhas and bodhisattvas can, as you go up the bodhisattva levels, like the first level, you can emanate 100 bodies, second level, 1,000 bodies, etc., etc. And those bodies are for the benefit of beings. So how are animals going to get on the path if they don't have, nice little bodhisattva fellow ant showing them the way, or particularly, as you get higher up with the mammals. Yeah, we just don't know. As some people believe their unique pet is a bodhisattva. I rejoice. Yeah, they've certainly found themselves a lovely Dharma practitioner to have as their dog, as their servant. Is it? No. As a cat, their servant. As a dog, their master, mistress, whatever. Okay, their boss. Anyway, they've created that condition. Wonderful. So don't abuse anybody, any being. And if I think that I'm training to be a Buddha, how would a Buddha treat that insect, that cockroach, that any being? Well, we've got a bit of a hint with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who would do puja for every ant, every being. I think, lucky little ant. It just means getting from A to B takes a bit longer. At Bendigo, when Rinpoche was there, and you're going to get, leave Rinpoche over in the night time, and everyone's got torches and then there'd be signs saying ants crossing. So we don't think of teeny tiny beings as being sentient beings. Yeah. Anyway, don't abuse any living being. And then putting on an air of having selfless thought, but having ulterior motives, other than the pure wish to attain the enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, such as pretending to be a scholar or concealing your shortcomings. So in other words, didn't you know I've done all these study programs? I've read every, well, probably anybody who says they've read every text and commentary would be, I'm not sure who they would be, some great holy being in that wouldn't mention. But yeah, putting on airs, I think we get that. Or concealing your shortcomings. So again, this can happen, like we're soon to have Jado Rinpoche coming to Perth, not to this centre. So far, we can live in hope. And of course, everyone will be on their best behaviour and looking very pure and wonderful. And we want to do that. We want to convey that. We want to show that respect. But if we're also pretending that we're a good student, look at me type of thing, then that's this one. That doing it with humility and respect is a wonderful, wonderful virtue. So don't get me wrong. But we've just got to check our mind. And then the opposite is to practice the 4 positive dharmas that oppose those. So abandon deliberately lying to any sentient being, whether for the sake of humour or even at the cost of your life. So that's how important it is to not lie. And I was thinking about this one, even for the sake of humour. So when I was at Chen Rezig, I was, we do make jokes, right? And I made I can't even remember what it was, but I used an Aussie phrase that someone who was of the same cultural background of me would get, but this person wasn't. They're Italian. And so, and because I'm a nun and because I'm a teacher, he thought I was telling him something important. And I'm like, no. That was a joke. It didn't translate, did it? Like we have to be careful, right? We have to be careful. So even joking, we say, oh, I was just joking. Yeah, doesn't always commute. So we have to be very careful about our speech. And then even at the cost of our life, we don't do it even to protect our own life. Yes, to protect others, like we've got the classic example of the deer hunter. Haven't seen any deer hunters in WA, but I'm saying they don't exist in WA. But no deer. So there's no deer in WA, so there's no deer hunters. Oh, well, they might be here, but they're not killing deer. Anyway, so the deer hunter comes along with the gun and says, did you see a deer? Which way did they go? And you say that way, and they went that way, but you're trying to prevent both. You're trying to prevent that deer being killed and the hunter from committing the karma of killing. So this comes along, that level of practice comes along with the bodhisattva training, that if we're able to skillfully prevent others creating negative karma. That's part of the deal of taking the bodhisattva vows, if we're able to skillfully do that. If we're not sure, give it a go. If we really know we'll create harm, don't do it. Okay. So, and not discriminating against sentient beings. So that's opposing this one of, not having the pure wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. Abandoning criticizing bodhisattvas. Again, we don't know who a bodhisattva is. So if we treat all beings as bodhisattvas and Buddhas, then we don't criticize those. So we don't criticize anybody. It includes ourselves. That's tough, but we practice it, but not criticizing anybody, particularly our Dharma brothers, sisters, particularly if we've taken vows together. They become, and those of us taking tantric empowerments, and I just mentioned because Jada Rinpoche is offering them, maybe you're taking for the first time, or even you're not taking for the first time, but those of us who will be there present at the time become Vajra brothers, sisters, and we never ever criticize each other at all. So I like to think, as Buddhist practitioners, we want to show that we're not criticizing in terms of judging others, putting them down. No. It comes along in the first of the 18, which we'll get to in a minute. Taking upon yourself the responsibility to establish all sentient beings in the Mahayana path, encouraging their enthusiasm for the Mahayana path. So say someone says, it happens when you're just like this, out and about, and someone, oh, where's your center? And so we tell them, or we give them the business card, we talk about our programs or so forth. We don't judge them. We don't think, what do you know already? Is this the place for you? We just say, come along, try it out. And if people are here practicing the same thing, and even if they don't come, even if they don't turn up, you've practiced this of encouraging them. And it's a fine line between encouragement and proselytizing. That we do not do. But if people ask, we've got to make it, so they can access. Rejoicing in the virtues of others instead of being jealous of their wish to attain enlightenment. So I can't think of an example of being jealous of somebody's wish to attain an enlightenment, but an example. Yes. Yeah.
And I could see them in the background when I was listening to Geshe teaching, and it was very difficult to talk to Joyce. Not jealous. Oh, because you were there.
Good. Fake it till you make it. Rejoice. At least, because it's so often I hear, oh, I'm jealous. No. If they're Dharma practitioners, no, you're rejoicing, right? It comes up in our mind because it's like, I'm missing out. They have created the merit for that. You created the merit to be online and see that. So you were there. I don't know. I don't think being able to connect online is baby merit. I think it's great virtue. So we just train our mind, as you did, recognize that, nip it in the bud and say, no, not going there. That's what I think. You do. You got front and center right there. Yeah. Well, it's not faking it. I shouldn't say fake it till you make it. What I should say is all practice, 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 practice. We just continue to practice. And because we're setting our mind in that direction, right, we get better at it. Anywhere we set our mind in that direction, say, okay, jealousy arose. But then I remembered to at least say rejoice. I remember saying to one of my teachers one time that the Prime Minister at the time, no names, doesn't have, compassion, doesn't have compassion. And my teacher said, he says the word. So the word already has an impact on the mind. So saying the word, rejoice, 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 has an impact, right? And it would have shifted your mind then because you'd cut across it. So we can't underestimate. So I shouldn't use the word fake because that's got so many connotations these days. It's not good. Yeah. The motivation is to practice. It's not to fake. It's not to pretend. And that's why the word we have to be very careful of words. I have to be very careful. So I reframe that to practice.
Vows when somebody comes to you for a reference or from Freud's person like using the house or something for that. And you can't criticize, you can't lie. What do you do?
You could say, I wouldn't recommend them. I wouldn't recommend them. That's the truth. You haven't criticized. But we have to be factual, if they say, why wouldn't you? Well, this happened at my place, or this didn't happen. Yeah. It's tricky because I know for myself, even within, within Dharma centers, and if I'm asked for references, I've got to think what's going to be the benefit or not to that project or that center or, FPMT or whatever. So, yeah. So we're not criticizing the person. We're saying, I personally could not recommend them. And then they can make of it what they want. Yes.
Is that like sometimes you focus on the actions rather than the
person?
You don't attack the person, you talk about
the actions. Yeah, so like in Christianity, they say don't criticize the sinner, criticize the sin. So it doesn't have to be a sin as such. It's pretty heavy, but you say, well, I can't give a recommendation. Keep it as this is where we use skillful means. They will get the point. Well, I trust you, so I'm not going to pursue that. Right. And cultivate love and compassion in all our actions. So as that book, Bodhisattva Attitude, has, opening the door to enlightenment, putting on your belt, practice ethical restraint, sleeping with bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings, which includes yourself, to be able to benefit others, but take care of yourself, etc. Radio. So then we have these 18 root vows, downfalls. So the vow itself is a promise to refrain from these two sets of negative actions, the 18 root ones and the 46 secondary ones, 40 behavior. So if we break a root downfall, and we have to know what it is to actually break it, you've got to have these 4 conditions except for 2 of them. That means the loss of the entire bodhisattva vows. However, not to minimize that impact, but to say this is why we have the, reciting that prayer it says to restore any vows that have been broken and to strengthen those that haven't been broken. So by doing that, doing a purification practice and restoration of the vows, then we can, re-establish that. It doesn't mean that's it, gone forever. So this is where it's different to the vows of individual liberation. When we take the no killing, no stealing, no lying, no sexual misconduct, no intoxicants. If we break one of those, it's broken, right? But it doesn't, say I break one of those, I've still got 4. I've only broken one. So I'm just saying there's distinctions between one and the other. So they can't be restored when we fully break them. So the idea of a downfall, because why do we call them downfalls, is that it's a degeneration of our spiritual progress, our spiritual development. So it hinders the growth of our positive qualities, and, if not entirely breaking, weakens those. So, if we weaken a vow and then we do that again and again and again, it's a slippery slope. Sooner or later, we'll break that vow if we don't keep it in check. That will happen. Okay. So basically, we can see them as guidelines to shape our behavior. I sort of grew up I did grow up Catholic very much, and it's like, thou shalt not. So if we don't look at it like that, but rather look at it as, unpacking what it means to hold that bodhisattva vow, to say, well, these are the things to consider as harmful to other sentient beings, and these are the things to consider as benefiting others. So these sets of bodhisattva vows come via Lama Atisha from, obviously come from the Buddha, but via Lama Atisha, via his teacher, Lama Salingpa, who received from Buddha Maitreya. So that's that lineage. Okay. And then pretty much our commentaries follow commentaries by Lama Tsongkhapa in the Gelug tradition, right? So let's looking at these vows. You must abandon praising yourself or belittling others out of attachment to receiving offerings or admiration. So each of these first 4 actually have 2 parts to it, 2 aspects. So in fact, there's like those 4 equal 8. So, so in general, belittling others is what we talk about, criticizing others, putting them down, particularly speaking such words to someone perhaps you regard to be in an inferior position to you. So, yeah, you say things like, oh, they're not such a great teacher or scholar, they're not capable, I'm better than them, anything like that. And your motivation here is that to praise yourself, to put yourself higher. And here it's like you want to gain, you want some gain, you want some praise or love or respect from the person you're addressing. You want to receive some material benefit. And so, as it says in the Great Confession Ceremony, it says, praising myself and criticizing others out of desire for gain and honor. So the gain is any material, wealth, food, house, car, whatever. And then, you know, when we talk about the respect, you know, wanting the respect, it's like the respect that we show when, you know, people stand up and someone comes into the room, arrange a seat for them. So this is where you're jealous that that's being offered to someone else and not being offered to me. Be careful. And so you begin to criticize them and says, oh, I don't know what you're doing, blah, blah. So we have examples of that in the past. I think I was trying to find, I do remember there was one, ended up being a student of Lama Tsongkhapa, who, what was it, Lama Atisha? Anyway, who, you know, thought, oh, well, I don't know why they're on the throne, I'm better than they are. And then, of course, once the teaching started coming, I went, oh, okay. We had the example of Shantideva, who went to Nalanda University, which means you had to be pretty much a scholar to even get in. And so all of the commentaries, a lot of the commentaries we use are from those scholars who went to Nalanda. And so then with Shantideva, because people saw his behavior was, there was nothing wrong with his behavior, except they couldn't see that he was studying. They could only see that he was eating, sleeping, and doing kaka. And so I thought, waste of space, you know, somebody else could occupy this space. And so they thought we'd put him to the test and built this high throne in the courtyard. I don't know if anyone's been to the Nalanda. This is the ruins of Nalanda now. And you say, oh, this is where everything happened out here in the courtyard, in the sort of teaching courtyard. Anyway, so they built this high, like with no steps. And so he came out, pushed the throne down to his convenient level, got on, and in beautiful 4-line verse, Bodhisattva's way of life, which we still study today on the 6 perfections. So just we don't know who anyone is. That person we think is a nuisance or whatever could be a great holy being. We just don't. Oh. So it comes back to what we were saying before. Don't criticize anyone, including the dog next door, who very happily is, well, probably not very happy, maybe is doing guard job duty. And we're very happy about that because we did have make it broken into. Anybody interested? No. No, I was just using that as an example, just in case anybody's mind was. Anyway, you can have compassion for the dog. He's practicing. He's doing his job, protecting the house. Okay, so the second one, not sharing Dharma teachings or wealth. So out of attachment or miserliness. So when it says not sharing the Dharma teachings, you think, well, how can I do that? Say somebody says, can I have your, I see you're taking notes. Will you share those notes with me? And you go, oh no, they're my notes. If you go, well, I'll share them with you, but I'm sorry if it doesn't make any sense to you because it's mine. That's okay. Still give it a go. It's fine. But if you say, no, mine, take your own notes, then that's breaking this one. Or, yeah, or people come in, they want to know something. We have free books to give all. You know, if you think, oh no, we're not going to give it to you because you might not come back. What, you know, I'm just saying, examples could be. So it has to be out of attachment or miserliness. So that's really important. So say I say, well, I'm happy to lend you my book. Right now it's not convenient because I'm using it for the next so long. That's okay. Because you're not doing it out of attachment and license, you're doing it because of you. But I can tell you where you can get it online. So, yeah. And then maybe not sharing wealth. So say somebody's begging, they're hungry, whatever, and out of stinginess, meanness, you refuse to give them what they want. So, you know, so anyway, I haven't seen it recently, but then I haven't been out shopping so much. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you make an offering to her and, you know, you get a wonderful conversation. Bonus. I don't have to say, will I give it to you? Because what are you using it for? Blah, 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 blah. It's my practice of generosity. One of my friends at Vajrayana Institute, when it was in Newtown in Sydney, I only mentioned that was on a busy street, at least close to a busy street. And so one of my Dharma friends who lived at the centre, she'd say, when she went out and gave to people, she'd say thank you to them. And you're like, what are you thinking? And in her mind, she's thinking, because you've given me the opportunity to practice generosity. And if we find we do have that stinginess, then just give a little bit. And then over time, it gets easier to give a bit more. Of course, we're not saying give away your house, give away all the possessions. So our minds go to extremes, don't they? We give what we can. We give time. That is free. We give love. That is free. Give what we can. However, there's some provisos here that, you know, maybe if somebody were to request Dharma teachings and you know it's like they're from another tradition and they want to use it to criticize the Dharma. Maybe that might be amongst family friends, maybe, I'm not sure. Again, I can't give an example of that, but if you knew that, then please don't share the Dharma. Or they may want to use it just to become wealthy, to set themselves up. It's like the wrong place in the, you know, they don't understanding. Actually, setting up a Dharma centre isn't the way to. Yeah. But, you know, we don't, you know, if somebody's, I don't know, maybe miserliness could include, oh, I don't have time, which is miserliness of time. But you could say, I'm really busy right now, but how about you make a time with them to have that chat with them? Yeah. Okay. Not listening to others' apology. Oh, sorry. What's it say now? I think it's different in these texts I've got. Not forgiving others, but harbouring a grudge and holding on to it even when they apologise. Anybody got a Scottish background? Because, you know, the Scottish clans, I don't know if they still fight with each other, but it's like, what are they fighting over? Something they probably don't even know about that happening eons ago. It happens all around the world. Yeah. I mean, even, I remember talking to a friend of mine who was upset because a friend of hers wasn't talking to her anymore. And she asked her friend, why aren't you talking to him anymore? So, you really upset me. I can't remember what it was, but you really upset me. I mean, how crazy is that? Yeah. So, yeah, here the motivation is one of anger. So we can look at this in a couple of ways. So refusing to accept an apology. So usually this is said to be out of anger. So say you become angry with other Dharma friends, you have bodhisattva vows and you scold them, argue with them, and the others are trying to calm you down. And, you know, apologizing, the one you're attacking, apologizing for upsetting you. Now, I haven't seen it, but I have heard that Lama Zopa Rinpoche, if anybody criticized Lama Zopa Rinpoche, got angry with me, Rinpoche would go, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And in my heart, I'm just like, I would be so embarrassed to have Rinpoche say, I'm sorry, sorry. And this is for the benefit of helping that other one to calm down, but you don't accept their apology. So it has to have that aspect of apologizing to appease someone, or also to generally say, yep, I did do that. I stuffed up. I'm so sorry, of course. And even though, say, you apologize for something, the person refuses to listen or accept it. So we're talking about a person who's got bodhisattva vows here. So not just someone in your family, because we're talking about people that's us not say, I don't accept your apology. And I continue to fight with you, argue with you, and escalates and so forth. So here it says, the commentaries say that it doesn't stop with just harsh speech, but goes on to actually beating, using fists, rocks, sticks, so on. Even though being, asked to show understanding, forget about it, you don't listen, you got to get back at them no matter what. So that's that mind of revenge. Very toxic. And if, coming back to the getting angry at a bodhisattva, who we don't know about, if they're on the same spiritual level as you, and we don't know that either, the result is rebirth in the hell realms if you don't purify. And you have as many eons of suffering in the hell realms as the moments, instances of your anger. Think of it. Eon, words, 300. And if at a higher level, it's even worse. So as we say, it's about anger is the worst thing. All the afflictions. So when we see anger arising in our mind, we can think of all the harmful effects of anger before it hijacks our mind and takes us over completely, and stop it immediately and try ourselves to calm ourselves. Then next one, abandoning the Mahayana teachings by saying that some part of the teachings are not the teaching of the Buddha, and propounding your own fabricated or perverted doctrine. So very careful that, there are within the Mahayana, there are people following the Mahayana who say, oh, I don't believe in, say, past and future lives. And yet the Buddha taught those. Otherwise, the whole thing about having anything influence on your mental continuum falls apart. The whole karma laws of the law of cause and effect falls apart. And this is integrated in the teachings of the Buddha. So So rejecting the correct teachings about some topic concerning bodhisattvas, such as ethical behavior. So this can come along, particularly as we age in, the great scope Mahayana path, and we think, oh, ethical behavior is, oh, that's a small scope practice, but the Buddha taught this whole path to enlightenment, all these practices, so that it's one continuous path for each individual. So there's sometimes like, oh, now you're doing tantric practice, you don't need to worry about that because, all sounds are pure mantras, so you don't have to worry about what you say. We get it wrong. We make confusion and so forth. So here we've got to be very careful. So so an example that's used is Vasubandhu. So Vasubandhu wrote the Abhidhamma Kosha, Treasury of Great Knowledge by learning. And it said that he did that because earlier in his life, it's uncertain whether he actually criticized the Mahayana Dharma, but he studied Hinayana Dharma and philosophy very extensively and didn't accept the Mahayana Dharma in the early part of his life. Now, you could say that's the nature of your progression of understanding, traveling along the path. However, just in case to purify that, that's why he composed the Treasury of Knowledge, the Abhidhamma Kosha. And it said that this Sima Khensa Lobsang Thubten, who was an abbot of Saramay Monastery. So he was in Tibet, he was one of the ones from Tibet that did all the classic studying and so forth. Who escaped in 1959. He ended up teaching in the US, and this commentary is a commentary on the 6th session of Guru Yoga, was in Tantra. So I quite like it for this section of the Sattvadas, but there are many commentaries I express and so you can refer to. So here with Vasubandhu doing that, so that then became practice within Saramay to memorize and recite that text to purify negativities. And it's one of the classic tests that's studied within the Vesu program for 5 years. So it said to purify, powerful method to purify the misdeed of giving up the supreme Dharma. In the words Mahayana Dharma. And the second part of this is about propounding, we would say, wrong views, setting up, making up some other practice. I mean, you can't contaminate the Dharma, but you can confuse people. And so, for example, leaving out parts of the Buddhist teachings because you prefer to teach those. So being careful. So this happened at the time of the Buddha, that there was the false propounders. So, well, there was a light at the time of the Buddha because the Buddha uniquely taught depending on the tradition. So it says here, example of this is when teachers who are eager not to scare away prospective students condone liberal moral behaviour
So I don't have to be a teacher to go and say, oh, that's okay. It was only an insult. Or, you know, when you say, oh, but it's too hard. And yeah. So even we've got to be careful again, coming back to the words, in case of conversation with others, we can commit this one. Taking offerings intended. Yes. Yes. When he found out is the words I'm going to. You said when he found out. He didn't found out. He didn't find out. He was told. Correct? Someone said to him, that's the person who's, if they're a Mahayana practitioner, who's breaking it. So we're talking as Mahayana practitioners with bodhisattva guides, not as Theravada practitioners without. So you have to make that clear distinction. In any case, you know, fundamentally we say we don't criticize any of the teachings of the Buddha. That's criticizing the Buddha. That all those teachings are valid teachings, and the Buddha was able to teach according to the capacity of beings. So those beings who would freak out by having the higher level teachings, for example, teachings on emptiness, which from a Theravada perspective, really they focus on selflessness, not on empty. So, you know, not wanting to, because of perhaps not having the correct understanding. So we've got to say, this is us as Mahayana. So this does happen. As Mahayana practitioners, we don't want to contribute to causing that to happen for someone else, because we say it's giving up higher vehicle for lower vehicle, if you have the karma to follow them up. But I do know people. I was talking to someone yesterday who's Theravada and was a Theravada monk who was previously following Mahayana. He was into but then found, let's say he found his path. I don't know whether he made any commitments with him, he probably didn't, because he was only a short time. So it's whatever is beneficial for us in any particular. And maybe with your friend, maybe that's beneficial. I don't know. Yeah. Exactly. Same. So with the Zen Buddhism, you're not giving up the Mahayana path, because it is a Mahayana path. So it's not that. But if we look at, you know, Lamson Papa's, you know, so, you know, talks about the aspiration for full enlightenment. And so we often say for Lamson Papa's full enlightenment. In other words, the most, which gives us the most profound understanding of emptiness, and so practice in relation to that to attain full enlightenment. But a Mahayana practitioner would still say that Zen would still say that they are also practicing to attain full enlightenment. Indeed, they are. That's the motivation. So, so we could. It's mainly about causing someone to give up, causing someone to, as us bodhisattvas in family, causing someone else to give up. So this comes up a few times here. So people, someone says, "Oh, this is too hard," and say, "Why don't you go over to work? That would be easier." That's good if they do it. Yeah. Well, yeah. In terms of practice, yeah, absolutely finding all of them. So if you, I would say, and it's dependent on how much somebody has studied in each of any of those traditions. But if you're taking bodhisattva rites, and particularly to take tantric rites, so that the aspiration to attain enlightenment is so much stronger that I've got to do it as quickly as possible. Then that's why we do the bhajra and the tantric. So, which are not taught in the Zen tradition, not taught in the field. There's still not the only motivation, but we'd have to look at, am I giving, and that's a great point, the full enlightenment, or something less. But this, in here, it's not about that, it's about, in other words, individual liberation, with enlightenment, when you've already, say, taken refuge in taking refuge in the retreat. So then you look at the, in terms of the own individual practices, looking at, well, I don't know enough about study in the Pure Land tradition. I do know that, and it's Buddha Amitabha made that pledge, that if you recite and if you do this, and you will be reborn and superated. It's pure. This is correct. And so that's a wonderful aspiration to have. However, you need to then come back as a human being in this particular world system to get the, I mean, not this particular earth, but which is Zambaroon, Jambudvipa, the type of humans who have the access to the tantric teachings to be able to go further. So nothing wrong with, because of Amitabha's pledge when you're training on the path, you can go to the Pure Land without having completely purified your mind of the perfections. But I sort of heard it described like a holiday. It's not the final destination, but it would be, I mean, if you did that and then came back and did the tantric teachings with somewhere in there the imprints on your mind of experiencing a pure life, having a pure life experience, your mind's going to be very powerful. So you can't really say this way, that way. So but if you're thinking, no, I've already made up my mind to follow the tantric path, because one has to do tantra to become fully enlightened. Then it would be logical to follow. What one we up to? Yes, 5, taking back offerings to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, or taking them by robbery or devious schemes, using for your own purpose material dedicated to the Sangha. Okay, so here we have to be clear, the Sangha, so in general, it's one of two things, is that it's the Arya Sangha, who can be lay or ordained beings who have a direct perceptual realization of emptiness, however you know what that is. Or the other understanding here, Sangha literally means community. So often we talk about it, well, not so much in our tradition, but it is talked about that Sangha is all the people who come along to the Dharma Center and who are taking it. And so here it actually refers to fully ordained, a community of 4 fully ordained. However, we can also think about it when not being the community of 4 fully ordained, because we don't have that here, but any ordained Sangha. I think that's useful for our minds to look at it in that way. So taking offerings, intended for the tribute them, to steal or embezzle personally or through deputing someone else, getting someone else to do anything offered or belonging to Buddhist Dharma or Sangha, and to consider it as your own. So it could be embezzling the funds that are for building a stupa or a statue or so forth, for printing Dharma books, for feeding a group of monks or nuns, or taking food or whatever, that you know is assigned to them. So anything in terms of Dharma, anything offered to a stupa, statue, Buddha Dharma Sangha, anything. This is where when we put these food offerings on the altar, we have a mantra, that we say 7 times, and blow. Since COVID, we don't really blow too directly from a distance in the general space. The idea of that is to contaminate those offerings. In other words, make it suitable for us, so we're not committing the act of stealing. Because the other alternative is it stays there and it's rotten and it's unpleasant. Okay. So we have a practice for that, but then if we're taking things for our own use, or saying, oh, that's mine, and we could even say taking anything from the Dharma Center, really, taking from the Dharma, anything from the Dharma Center. Yeah.
They actually don't need
Before they get there. Yeah, that's a good idea. One for, yeah, that's a strategy. They're intended for that. So it's not the full one of this. It's not the full downfall, but it's a slippery slope. Because, of course, when you've acknowledged that and said, I'll just have to buy one for me and I can't resist and watch the attachment mind. It is good to offer things on the altar that we have an attachment for. It does help with our attachment, or maybe it doesn't. It's an excuse to have more. So, yeah, you haven't yet offered. So it hasn't been offered. But it is, you've just got to watch that mind, isn't it? And if you say, I'll buy 2, one's for me, one's for the altar, then your mind's clear. So it's much simpler. Yes, welcome. I mean, we've all got a lot of work to do. Yeah. A little bit effort today. No, yeah, for up to number 6. Okay. And I guess from another point of view, and this is preventing other people creating negative karma, we want to do whatever we can to prevent others stealing from Buddha Dharma Sangha, stealing from the Dharma Center, stealing from the altar, and so forth. I had, at one point in Sydney, I had the main altar, and then I think I was doing a Nyungne, and so I had extra offerings and they were down low, and I had a doll. And so there were water offerings at her nose level. And I got there before she did, but I realized I've got to put them up. Well, she was looking, but the next thing would be the tongue coming out. So
Got to be careful. Yes. And they were labelled for whatever purpose. So again, at Vajrayana Institute in Sydney, because in the student kitchen, like residence kitchens, centre kitchen, actually, and we'd have to write for this puja, for that puja, for this, for that on the bags, even though each shelf says, you know, things you can have and things that belong to others, just to make it extra sure these are for. Yeah. And so people could inadvertently take something because they don't realize it's being offered and it looks gorgeous and, oh my God. So, you know, we've got to preempt all of that, don't we? Yeah. I mean, it comes back to, I mean, for ourselves to practice that don't take unless offered, right? Because you don't know in the Dharma Centre, don't take unless offered. At that same centre, apparently I had no idea. So that, so you had the kitchens long like this and a counter there. And apparently whatever was put on that counter, everyone was offered to anybody. I had no idea. You don't know. And I went, oh, really? That's offered, is it? So that's right. I prefer hands off to, and then once you know that it's okay or not okay, we follow accordingly. But we have to be careful because we don't really know. So I think we can safely assume, and one wants to stick around for a cuppa, that everything on that table out there, everything on the cupboard thing is all offered, okay, including the milk in the fridge. Yeah, just in case you go, oh, I better not touch anything. Okay, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you. Hope that some of you who were coming, but you've got the opportunity of public holiday, can join us again. So we've got one more Friday on the Bodhisattva vows, and then we have a little break for Jada Rinpoche's teachings. There's a lot of people going there. And what else we got? Tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m, Vajrasattva practice, which is a purification practice. And then we've got our regular program besides things. Meditation, yeah, regular program, meditation, discovering Buddhism. And yeah. Okay, so we'll turn to the dedication page here. Page 8. Just the first two verses. Gewadi Nududa Lama Sange Drikune Joa Chikyam Malupa De Sala Gopa Shojan Chosen Chogrim Poshe Make Panam Ge Fuchi Ge Panyam Pame Payam Gomne Gondu Kawa Shu. Next page, long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. May you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher, an assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shravakas and Prachika Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. And a long life prayer for Tenzin Oso Rinpoche. Lord of Dharma, who in accordance with the various dispositions of those to be subdued, makes clear in the light of your well-spoken advice of sacred Ganjin tradition, essence of Buddha's teachings, or foremost and holy Lama, Jiva Supreme, we make this prayer of supplication. The Lama, please, please live long. Thank you very much. And yes, if anyone would like to stick around and have cuppa, I think, you know, those of you maybe who can't get here physically next week, we've got people can join online. There's a Zoom link for next week. Yeah. There's a Zoom link on the website. Okay. Great. Thank you very much.